Move your car, or we'll call the cops right now. That's what she screamed while her son climbed out of my Charger like he just borrowed a bike from a buddy. I was standing there with my own keys in his hand, neighbors peeking through their windows, her clipboard already stacked with fines that didn't make sense. 12 minutes earlier, my car wasn't even missing, but now it looked like I was about to be made the villain on my own property. You ever had someone turn dumb HOA rules into a weapon? Yeah, me too. Comment what you would have done if you were in my shoes. Because the whole circus, every second of it, was caught on my front camera. Dylan Knox sliding out of my car, twirling my keys in the air like he'd just finished a joyride he thought nobody would ever know about. His sneakers left blue streaks across the wet driveway, the air still sweet and sharp from the rain. And Pamela, Pamela, stood at the curb like the world's most dedicated meter maid, jotting down violations as if she were writing scripture. There's a kind of cold anger that hits you when people decide to turn rules into a way to hurt you. It's not fear. It's a kind of tightness behind your ribs that says, these folks really think they're smarter than me. But they had no idea who they were dealing with. Because if you learn anything working cases for years, it's that you let people show their hand before you play your own. The camera buzzed in my pocket, another alert, more neighbors leaning out like nosy lighthouses. I let the show play out just a little longer. Sometimes it pays to let people hang themselves with their own rope. Dylan, with that smug trust fund swagger, tossed my keys in the air, catching them with a grin that made me want to wipe it right off his face. He didn't even notice his expensive sneakers were soaked straight through. Pamela, of course, clipboard clutched tight, had that HOA chairperson vibe. You know, every sentence perfectly measured, every gesture like she was running for mayor of this cul-de-sac kingdom. Evening, Owen, she said with fake sweetness, so thick you could spread it on toast. Hope you don't mind, but Dylan noticed your vehicle was parked in an unauthorized location overnight. We had to move it, document the violation properly. She called it a vehicle like it was some abandoned shopping cart, not the 2018 Dodge Charger I'd spent 3 years saving for, the one I'd dreamed about since high school. I kept my face calm, taking it all in, the way Dylan's hands trembled despite his act, the way Pamela kept glancing at her watch, neither of them bothered by the security cameras dotting every porch on the block. Dylan was maybe 19, maybe 20, baby-faced, always one phone call away from getting bailed out of trouble. Nice ride, man, he said, flashing that grin. Really moves when you get it on the open road. Of course, I kept it right in the speed limit. Wouldn't want to give the wrong impression about our neighborhood. He laughed, but the sound curdled in the air. It would have been funny if it wasn't so dangerous. He was making jokes and confessions at the same time, trying to play it off as nothing. I stepped closer, slow, hands visible, eyes level, counting angles, counting cameras, making sure every move was documented. Appreciate you bringing it back, I said, taking my keys, still warm from his pocket. In my head, I was already pulling up security logs and smart key data, thinking about the 23-minute gap in my car's location. These people always underestimated the power of technology and the people who know how to use it. Pamela stepped in with her clipboard, now held like a shield. Now, Owen, I know this might seem like a minor issue, but we've had complaints about overnight parking in this section. The CC and RS are quite clear. She showed me a pre-printed form with my address, the car's description, all looking official, letterhead, reference numbers, the whole show. Fine is $250. Payable within 7 business days. She handed it to me like she was serving a summons. But here's where things get interesting. The violation said my car was parked at 9:45 p.m., except my phone showed Dylan started my engine at 9:57 p.m., 12 minutes later. I held up the form. Says the violation was at 9:45, but Dylan just brought my car back. How'd you document something that hadn't happened yet? I kept it casual, but watched her face fall as she realized she'd been caught in her own lie. Her smile faded, her voice got tighter. Well, the exact timing isn't really the point, Owen. The point is maintaining community standards. We like things consistent here. There's that word again, consistent. Code for people like you don't fit. I nodded, keeping my poker face. Dylan was filming with his phone now, just making sure everything's documented, he said, voice brittle. I smiled and waved. Good thinking, Dylan. Documentation's important. Then I pulled out my own phone, started recording. Mind if I get a statement on how you accessed my car? For my insurance company. They'll want to know how an unauthorized person got behind the wheel. His bravado evaporated in real time. Pamela's shield went up again. This is just a routine matter, Owen. No need to involve insurance or create unnecessary drama. Pay the fine, move your vehicle, we can all get back to our evening. But I was already thinking about every traffic stop, every time someone told me ignorance of the law was an excuse. And just how sweet it was going to be when these two realized they picked a fight with someone who'd been collecting evidence before they ever woke up this morning. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table, coffee, 3 phones, every piece of evidence in neat little folders. Security footage, smart key logs, recordings of the whole interaction. See, there's a line between disrespect and actual crime. Dylan crossed it the moment he started my engine. Grand theft auto, minimum 18 months. But they thought a fake HOA violation was the worst that could happen to them. Maybe I should have let it go. But I've seen how letting it go turns into paperwork that says you're the problem. Patterns don't break themselves. People break them. So I pulled up my car's log. 23 minutes and 14 seconds from engine start to shut down. 2.7 miles. All through the neighborhood. GPS showed him circling the lake, driving past the school, looping the shopping center. Like staying close would keep him safe. Doorbell rang, county deputy. Kid in a fresh uniform, nervous eyes. Morning, sir. I'm Deputy Pike, responding to a reported vehicle theft at this address. We sat down. I laid out everything, just like I would prepping a case for trial. He asked good questions, caught every detail, and after a while, he just shook his head. Most theft victims don't have this level of evidence. You work in law enforcement, Mr. Briggs? I just smiled, kept it vague. Let's just say I know how to document things. We went through the timeline. Pike finally looked up. Based on your evidence and the suspect's admission, this is unauthorized use of a motor vehicle. Given the value and premeditation, probably grand theft auto. He paused, then asked, Did you give Dylan Knox permission at any point? I told him flat. Never met the kid before last night. Never gave anyone permission to take my car. That afternoon, Pamela called. Her tone was pure panic, the fake politeness gone. Owen, I think there's been a misunderstanding about last night. Dylan was just trying to help with community standards. I said, Pamela, your son took my car. That's theft. She tried to threaten, then bargain. We can make this disappear. Dylan's got college applications pending. One mistake shouldn't ruin everything. But I'd already done some research. 3 other minority families had received similar citations. All from Pamela, all for vehicles technically within the rules. She went silent. That was the moment she realized she wasn't just dealing with a fine. She was about to be the subject of a federal civil rights investigation. Deputy Pike went by the Knox house that afternoon. Dylan cracked in under 10 minutes. But the car theft was just the surface. The real crime was systematic targeting, using fake violations to push people out. Next morning, spray-painted letters covered my driveway. Watch your parking. 8 feet wide, electric blue. Amateur hour. Mrs. Chun across the street had her cameras rolling all night, caught Dylan and his friends in the act. My phone buzzed. Pike wanted to meet at the station. I barely got out the door before Sarah Martinez and Tom Wilson showed up with a casserole and a folder of every violation Pamela had issued in 18 months. Almost all to minority families. Almost none based on real rules. Mrs. Chun brought the original HOA bylaws, showing most of Pamela's fines weren't even legal. They weren't just supporting me. They were making it clear. This was our fight now, not just mine. We compared notes, mapped the patterns, decided to show up together at the next HOA meeting where Pamela planned to push new enforcement rules. That's when I knew she was doubling down, trying to make her discrimination official. But now the whole neighborhood had seen her tactics, and the board was ready for a reckoning. That night, Pike texted, more evidence had come up. I drove over. Turned out, Dylan and 3 friends had broken into my car again, this time with hacking equipment and bolt cutters, thinking they'd erase evidence or set me up for another violation. But my charger was set with law enforcement-grade anti-theft. Cameras, alarms, remote shutdown. I called Pike. You might want to bring backup, deputy. Looks like our car thieves are back for round 2. 4 patrol cars responded. Dylan and his friends arrested, caught in the act, hacking tools, burglary gear. No way out this time. Even wilder, the laptop they brought was full of files, surveillance reports on other minority families, templates for violation notices, spreadsheets of problem residents. This wasn't about parking. It was organized harassment, a network of systematic targeting, with Pamela as ringleader and her board allies helping out. Detective Martinez from Cybercrime processed everything, found encrypted files, emails, and evidence this was happening in other neighborhoods too. What started as petty HOA drama was now federal territory, civil rights violations, conspiracy, stalking, fraud. Within days, FBI agents raided Pamela's house, found communication with other HOA leaders across the county, spreadsheets tracking enforcement against specific demographics, and payments from hate groups supporting their efforts. It was bigger than any of us realized. Multiple states, dozens of neighborhoods, all trying to keep people consistent, all pretending it was about standards. News vans showed up, neighbors started talking, more families came forward. The FBI arrested Pamela, the board resigned in disgrace, and the HOA was put under federal oversight. Our story made national news, triggered congressional hearings, and forced policy changes that echoed across the country. The Johnsons, the Rodriguezes, the Pattersons, all the families who'd suffered in silence, got apologies, settlements, and a chance to be part of rebuilding our community. 6 months later, the same driveway where it all started was filled with neighbors, laughter, and new kids riding bikes. Mrs. Chun chaired the board, Tom handled finances, and Sarah managed enforcement with strict oversight. No more secret fines, no more secret meetings. Pike was promoted to detective. Our community became a model for reform, and federal laws were rewritten to prevent this kind of abuse everywhere. But you want to know what felt the best? It wasn't the headlines, or the convictions, or even seeing Pamela Knox marched out in handcuffs. It was watching every family in this neighborhood finally feel like they belonged. No more coded language, no more fear. Just real people, real community, real change. That's what justice looks like where I live. So, if you've ever felt powerless against people hiding behind rules, remember, the system only works if you know how to use it. Sometimes the biggest fights happen right at home, one driveway at a time. And if you made it all the way to the end, I want to hear from you. What would you have done in my place? What needs to change where you live? Drop a comment, share your thoughts, and if you believe every family deserves a fair shot at home, share this story with someone who needs to hear it. Stay safe out there. Keep your keys close and your neighbors honest.